Some will rise and some will fall. And this weekend, the German women's team soared as they won the Rugby Europe Women's Trophy. On the other side of the coin, Sweden fell to their worst ever ranking, continuing a bad run of form since the start of January 2023. In this video, we take a look at their recent struggles, but also have a look at all the fixtures that happened this weekend and how they impacted the rankings. Let's get into it. The first game we will be looking at is the championship decider between Sweden and Germany that saw Germany win 29 points to 0 in Trelleborg in Sweden's own backyard. The result means that Germany claimed the trophy for the first time ever, and as a result move up 2 places to 20th in the rankings. Conversely, Sweden have now fallen to 23rd, their worst ever ranking since they began in 2006. This is Germany's first ever trophy win. They have finished second on 3 occasions and have finished third 5 times. The win pushed them up to 20th, like I said before. That is their highest ranking since October 2022. They have actually dropped ranking points all the way since April 2022, falling further and further down the points ladder, even though their rankings have stayed relatively stable. But this is now their highest ranking points total since April 2023. This one win boosting them up and erasing about 3 years worth of decline. Sweden, on the other hand, continued their slide down the rankings. They asked to leave the Rugby Europe Championship last year due to financial circumstances, and now they have also not won the trophy, so they continue to have a bad run of form. They have dropped 3 places since January 2023, but more worryingly, they have dropped 10 ranking points in that time. It is now up to them to regather, to regroup, and to come again next year to try and turn around this rotten run of form. For Germany, this is a crowning moment in what has been a positive few years. They beat Finland last year in their first win for the trophy, and then now beat Sweden. They had a few warm-up games, a few trial games against Hong Kong and Belgium last year, which gave them valuable experience. Their next goal now is to play more regular rugby and try and see if they can get access to the Rugby Europe Championship to really go from strength to strength. Okay, so now we have looked at the Women's Trophy. The next tournament we'll be looking at is the Rugby Europe Men's Trophy. So there was only one game that took place in the Men's Trophy this year. It was part of a double header that was taking place in Trelleborg. It saw Sweden take on Denmark. Sweden, who are chasing promotion to the Rugby Europe Championship, playing against Denmark, who have just been promoted from the conference. There was a lot going on in this game, a lot riding on this game. Sweden needed to win to keep their promotion hunt alive, ideally by a bonus point, while Denmark were trying to secure their status at the trophy level. Now, in a sense, both of those goals were achieved, although it will be difficult for Sweden to get promoted since they will have to get a superior points difference to Poland come the end of the tournament. However, for Denmark, they are now secure at the trophy level. The teams that will be relegated will be either Croatia or Lithuania. It was a very entertaining game in Trelleborg, with Sweden winning narrowly 33-32, end-to-end game that saw the last try scored just before the final hooter. The wind played a very important part in this game, with the team playing from left to right having a big advantage throughout that half. So Denmark were playing with the wind in the first half and took advantage of that, but then Sweden came back in the second half and just nicked the win. We will now see how the end of these two teams' campaigns play out as Sweden take on Poland, in which could be a title decider, while Denmark will play Czechia, with Czechia also aiming for promotion. So there's still a lot to play for in the trophy, but Denmark showed that they belonged at this level and will hope to go from strength to strength in next year's competition as well. Now let's look at the third competition taking place this weekend, with the men's conference swinging back into full action with 3 games taking place. The first one was Moldova versus Turkey. Now Moldova won 17-7, but because of the big ranking gap, there was no changes in the rankings. Moldova thus got their campaign off to a winning start. This was their first game since losing against Denmark in last May to miss out on trophy promotion. They got off to a winning start, whereas Turkey lost their 3rd game in a row. However, these results have been close. They lost by 2 points against Bulgaria in their previous game and now by 10 points against Moldova.
We interrupt this broadcast to clarify the change in Turkey's ranking. As you will see, they moved up 1 spot, but this was because of Hungary's loss against Austria. Their game against Moldova did not impact their rankings. Thank you. Back to the video.
The second game we'll be looking at is Andorra versus Malta. Malta came out 44-24 winners here, and as a result of that victory, they now rise up to 48th, 2 places above where they were going into the weekend. They are trying to get back to where they were after dropping 5 places last year. They dropped from 42nd to 47 in 1 game week due to the tightness in the rankings at that level of the rankings. They are now trying to claw their way back up to 42nd and above, and have taken a strong step in that direction. Now the last game we'll be looking at in the conference is Hungary versus Austria. Austria winning by 86 points to 7, and you would think with that type of scoreline that this was a big favorite defeating a big underdog and that there would be no ranking changes, but because of the condensed nature of the rankings down there between the 70s and the 80s, Austria still shot up 7 places to 65th, and Hungary still dropped 2 places to 86th. Just to give you an idea of how tight the rankings are down there, between Moldova in 59th and Iran in 90th, there's only 10 ranking points. To put that into context, there is more ranking points between New Zealand in 2nd and Italy in 11th. So that's why we saw this big jump for Austria all the way to 65th. They are now well positioned for the rest of this tournament and will hope to go from strength to strength, while Hungary will try to turn things around. So the last game we will be touching on is a men's international test match between Czechia and Mexico. This is the first game they have ever played against each other and served as vital preparation for Czechia before their game against Denmark next weekend, and gave Mexico some game time. Like I said in our previous video, the biggest problem for Mexico is playing games. Now Czechia won 54-27, and as a result there was no changes in the rankings. There was quite a big ranking gap between the two teams, but it was still important for the Czechs as they continue their preparations for that important game and extend their winning run to 7 games in a row. Like I said, they are the form team in Europe right now and will be looking to make it 8 in a row when they play Denmark next weekend. So those were the ranking changes that happened this weekend. The biggest winners were Austria, and then Malta were also big winners after they won over Andorra. And then on the women's side, Germany rose up 2 places while Sweden dropped down 2 places to continue their worrying run. We have our second champions this year. Following the men's Six Nations, we now have a winner in the women's trophy division. These competitions are now in full flow, the conference and the men's trophy, and we will see how those competitions end in the next few game weeks. If you like this type of content, please go have a look at the other videos on our channel. I made a video previewing all these fixtures, which gave you a bit of background on the Czechs specifically and put their historical run into context. If you would like to read a bit more about the history of the game, please go to our website, which is linked down in the description, where we have a blog series looking at the history of the game, but where we also have a predictor where you can predict all the games coming up in the coming weekends and see how they affect the rankings. Thank you for watching the Rugby Store on YouTube channel. We really appreciate all the support that we have been getting. We will be previewing next weekend's game as well, so stay tuned for that. Anyway, see you next time. Ciao.